Long ago, in the golden sands of ancient Egypt, there was a princess named Cleopatra. She was not just beautiful, but also known for her keen intellect and curiosity. As the daughter of the pharaoh, Cleopatra was destined to rule, but her heart yearned for more than just the throne. She sought wisdom and power that no one had ever seen. One night, under the light of the full moon, Cleopatra wandered into the temple of Isis, the goddess of magic and wisdom. The temple was shrouded in mystery, its walls etched with hieroglyphs that whispered secrets of the gods. As Cleopatra stood before the statue of Isis, a soft voice echoed through the chamber.
"Cleopatra,"
it called.
"you seek power, but do you know the cost?"
Startled, Cleopatra looked around, but there was no one there. Only the statue of Isis gazed down at her, serene and all-knowing.
"I seek wisdom to rule justly,"
Cleopatra replied, her voice steady.
"Wisdom comes with a price. Are you prepared to pay it?"
The voice spoke again, this time with a hint of warning. Cleopatra nodded, determined.
"I am."
Suddenly the chamber was filled with a blinding light. When Cleopatra opened her eyes, she found herself in a lush garden unlike anything she had ever seen. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and in the center of the garden stood a massive serpent, its scales shimmering like jewels. The serpent looked into Cleopatra's eyes and spoke in a deep, resonant voice.
"I am Apophis, the serpent of chaos. You have been brought here because your desire for power and wisdom has been heard. I will grant you what you seek, but first, you must answer my riddle."
Cleopatra, though startled by the serpent, stood tall.
"What is your riddle?"
The serpent hissed softly before speaking.
"In the desert I am born, in the river I grow, in the sky I am destroyed. What am I?"
Cleopatra's mind raced. The serpent watched her intently, its eyes glowing with ancient knowledge. She thought of the Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, and how the sun scorched the desert, evaporating the waters, only to return them in the form of rain. Finally, she smiled and said,
"You are a cloud, born from the desert's heat, grown in the river's moisture, and destroyed by the sun's fire."
The serpent's eyes gleamed with approval.
"You are wise, Cleopatra, and so I shall grant you the power you desire. But beware, wisdom and power are double-edged swords. Use them well, or they will consume you."
With that, the serpent disappeared, and Cleopatra found herself back in the temple of Isis. In her hand was a golden ankh, a symbol of life and power. She knew then that she had been given a great gift, but also a great responsibility. As Cleopatra ascended to the throne, she ruled with a wisdom and strength that were unmatched. Her name became legend, not just for her beauty, but for the power she wielded with grace. But in her heart she always remembered the serpent's prophecy, knowing that true power lay not in domination, but in understanding the balance of life, wisdom, and the choices one makes. As the years passed, Cleopatra's kingdom flourished, but whispers of unrest began to grow. Across the Mediterranean, Rome was rising, its influence spreading like a storm. Cleopatra knew that to protect Egypt, she would need more than just wisdom. She would need alliances, strength, and a strategy that could outmaneuver even the most cunning adversaries. One night, as Cleopatra gazed out over the Nile from her palace, a messenger arrived bearing news that shook her to her core. The Roman general Julius Caesar had landed in Alexandria, seeking refuge from his enemies in Rome. Seeing this as an opportunity, Cleopatra devised a plan. She would meet Caesar, not as a supplicant, but as an equal. But how could she gain an audience with the most powerful man in the world? Cleopatra, ever resourceful, ordered that she be smuggled into Caesar's quarters, hidden within a rolled-up carpet. The plan was daring, dangerous, and brilliant. When the carpet was unrolled before Caesar, Cleopatra emerged, regal and confident, her presence commanding his immediate respect. Caesar was captivated. Here was a queen unlike any other, one who matched his intellect and ambition. Their meeting sparked a powerful alliance, both political and personal. Cleopatra knew that this bond with Caesar could secure Egypt's future, but she also realized that she was playing a dangerous game, one where a single misstep could lead to ruin. As Cleopatra and Caesar's relationship deepened, so too did the tensions between Rome and Egypt. While Caesar promised to protect Egypt, he also demanded tribute and resources, stretching the kingdom's wealth to its limits. Cleopatra began to see the truth in the serpent's words. The power she wielded was indeed a double-edged sword, and she would need to balance it carefully. Despite the challenges, Cleopatra and Caesar worked together to strengthen their alliance. Cleopatra gave birth to a son, Ptolemy Caesar, whom she named Caesarion, or Little Caesar. She hoped that their child would symbolize the unity between Rome and Egypt, a bridge between two great civilizations. However, fate had other plans. The serpent's warning echoed in Cleopatra's mind as she received word of Caesar's assassination on the Ides of March. The news struck her like a thunderbolt. With Caesar gone, Cleopatra knew that her position and Egypt's future were in grave danger. In the days that followed, Rome descended into chaos, with power struggles erupting between Caesar's supporters and his enemies. Cleopatra found herself isolated, her alliance with Rome suddenly fragile. But Cleopatra was not one to give up. She turned her attention to Mark Antony, one of Caesar's most trusted generals, a man known for his charisma and military prowess. Cleopatra invited Antony to Egypt, and when he arrived, she met him not as a desperate queen, but as a sovereign who still commanded the riches of the Nile. Antony, like Caesar before him, was immediately entranced by Cleopatra's intelligence and beauty. Their alliance quickly turned into a passionate love affair, one that would shake the foundations of the ancient world. But as Cleopatra and Antony's bond grew stronger, so too did the forces against them. In Rome, Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, viewed their relationship as a threat to his own ambitions. He launched a campaign to discredit Cleopatra, painting her as a seductress who had bewitched Antony and turned him against Rome. The tension between Rome and Egypt reached its peak when Octavian declared war on Cleopatra and Antony. Cleopatra, remembering the serpent's prophecy, knew that the final battle was near. She and Antony gathered their forces and prepared to face Octavian at the Battle of Actium. The battle was fierce, but Octavian's forces were overwhelming. Cleopatra and Antony were forced to retreat to Alexandria, where they made a final stand. But the odds were insurmountable, and soon their forces were defeated. As Octavian's legions closed in, Antony, believing Cleopatra to be dead, fell on his sword in despair. When Cleopatra found Antony dying, her heart broke, but she did not falter. She had one final act to play. She knew that if she surrendered, she would be paraded through the streets of Rome as a trophy, her beloved Egypt reduced to a mere province. Cleopatra, proud and defiant to the end, would not allow that to happen. In her final moments, Cleopatra called for a basket of figs within which was hidden an asp, a venomous serpent. As she held the asp to her breast, Cleopatra thought of the prophecy, of the choices she had made, and of the balance she had sought to maintain. The serpent's bite was swift, its venom bringing her life to a peaceful end. Cleopatra's death marked the end of an era. With her passing, Egypt fell to Rome, but her legacy endured. Cleopatra was remembered not just as a queen, but as a symbol of strength, intelligence, and the eternal struggle for power and wisdom. The story of Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, became legend, a tale of love, ambition, and the tragic consequences of wielding great power.